Ugh. Oh, and that's not even all. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Nikhil with Shelf-Esteem. I'm a composer, now also a booktuber. You can find my music on the Wheel of Time Season 2, His Dark Materials Season 3, and the official Brent Weeks companion album for a series Lightbringer that came out last year. If you haven't checked it out, it's on Spotify, Apple Music, and all that, so definitely check that out. Today, I wanted to talk about some spooky season reads. So, not to ape Cliff from Cliff's Dark Gems, he always calls it his pile of possibilities. I have quite a few books on this list, and actually, these aren't even all of them. I have a couple more that are on Kindle, and so I'm going to read the descriptions on my screen here. But I wanted to kind of throw these all out and see, kind of which ones I end up actually reading of this list. But I will say, I'm used to chunky fantasy books, and so it's nice to be able to kind of read stuff that is much shorter. That is more plot driven and kind of faster paced. So it'll be a nice little break from all the big 1,000-page chonkers that I've been reading lately. So without further ado, let's kind of dive into some of these and kind of why I chose them as well. Because I have some, specific motives for choosing these particular books. After this, kind of leave it in the comments and let me know like what you've chosen for spooky season, because I would love to know kind of more horror books. I want to get more into horror books that are not Stephen King, because I love Stephen King and I'm making my way through his whole catalog. But it would be nice to read other authors as well. So that's kind of the impetus of this whole thing. Without further ado, if you like this kind of video, please like and subscribe. It always helps out the channel. I've left some affiliate links below where you can check out some of these books as well. And I, of course, make a small percentage of those, and any little bit helps. So really appreciate you doing that. So without further ado, let's get on to the books. The first book, I found out about this recently because there was an announcement, I think in Variety or Deadline, entertainment industry publication, of the upcoming adaptation of Joe Nesbo's The Night House. So I had to check it out from the library. Don't know much about this one, but I'm going to read the little inside flap here so you can check it out. Hold on one second. My cat is running amok in here. I don't know what the hell is going on, but let's find out. So, what is The Night House about? In the wake of his parents' tragic deaths in a house fire, 14-year-old Richard Uleved has been sent to live with his aunt and uncle in the remote insular town of Ballantine. Richard quickly earns a reputation as an outcast, and when a classmate named Tom goes missing, everyone suspects the new angry boy who's responsible for his disappearance. No one believes him when he says the telephone booth out by the edge of the woods sucked Tom into the receiver like something out of a horror movie. No one, that is, except Karen, a beguiling fellow outsider who encourages Richard to pursue clues the police refuse to investigate. His sleuthing leads him to an abandoned house in the Mirror Forest where he catches a glimpse of a terrifying face in the window, and then the voices begin to whisper in his ear. Very kind of like Stephen King, Joe Hill-esque kind of premise there. I really like that kind of a thing, and it's quite short. It's like 250 pages, barely. So you could read it in a couple sittings. My kind of book, especially with all these books that I have planned for this month. So excited to kind of get into that. Let me know if you've read it in the comments as well, because I always like to know your thoughts on these things, whether you love it or you hate it. Doesn't matter. I think every thought is valid because every opinion is valid, because every opinion is some of one's own individual experience. So leave it in the comments below. This one, I've heard about T. Kingfisher for a while. I also saw Ellie from Bibbidi Bobbidi Books mentioning T. Kingfisher, and I've been wanting to read some of her books. So I found a novella, trying to break up again, as I said, the larger books. And this one is called What Moves the Dead? So this one, it says, let's see. When Alex Easton, a retired soldier, receives word that their childhood friend Madeline Usher is dying, they race to the ancestral home of the Ushers in the remote countryside of Ruritania. What they find there is a nightmare of fungal growths and possessed wildlife, surrounding a dark, pulsing lake. Madeline sleepwalks and speaks in strange voices at night, and her brother Roderick is consumed by a mysterious malady of the nerves. Aided by a redoubtable British mycologist and a baffled American doctor, Alex must unravel the secret of the House of Usher before it consumes them all. Fantastic. Maybe some body horror. Kind of interesting premise there. And, some of the reasons I picked these is like for example, the Joe Nesbo book, I wanted to see if I could pitch on the adaptation. So I like to read these adaptations beforehand, see if I could pitch to score it. And then this one, it just looked like a really cool premise. And I'd mentioned to you, I started a production company with the same director and cinematographer on the film I scored this last year called Dead Whisper. And we're looking for other things to option and maybe even develop into films and series. So, kind of doing my research here. Oh, well, it's a tough job, but somebody's got to do it. So that's been kind of a fun thing. So this is the second book I plan on reading possibly this spooky season. The third book is by an author named Stephen Graham Jones. Haven't read any of these authors, really, most of them. And this one is no exception, but I've heard great things about My Heart is a Chainsaw. What a title, by the way. That's an awesome title. Let's read the inside flap again, shall we? You won't find a more hardcore 80s slasher film fan than high school senior Jade Daniels, and you won't find a place less supportive of girls who wear torn t-shirts and too much eyeliner than Proof Rock, nestled 8,000 feet up a mountain in Idaho along Indian Lake, home to both Camp Blood, site of a massacre 50 years ago, and as of this summer, Terra Nova, a second home celebrity Camelot being carved out of a national forest. That's not the only thing that's getting carved up, though. This, Jade knows, is the start of a slasher. But what kind? Who's wearing the mask? Jade's got an encyclopedic recall of every horror movie on the shelf, but will that help her survive? Can she get a final girl trained enough to stop all this from happening? Does she even want to? Really interesting premise. Kind of almost got that feeling of like, if you've ever watched Scream, you know how there's kind of like that almost meta thing about like the horror movie fans and like trying to figure out how to, solve the mystery and things like that and stop slasher before it's too late. Really cool. I'm excited to read this. Again, a very kind of shorter book, and this is one of the longer ones on the list, and it's like 375 pages. Love that. Now, this one is pretty special, this next one. You all know that Stephen King's my favorite author of all time, so of course I had to have a Stephen King book in there. But what's interesting is I've actually never read his first book, Carrie. So I decided to get Carrie on, hardcover, but then I was looking on Barnes & Noble's website, and I saw that there was a special edition, which includes 3 novels in one. And if you haven't seen it, I did a whole unboxing of this yesterday as of this taping, so definitely check that out on the channel in the shorts section. But I wanted to give you a quick preview of what that looks like here. Look at this beautiful special edition. Carrie, Salem's Lot, and The Shining all in one. Beautiful hardcover. So of course I have to read this now. So I'm really excited to read Carrie. Carrie's actually one of my favorite movies of the 70s and one of my favorite horror movies of all time. I just love the mom character in it. I would love to see how it kind of measures up in the book. And, it's Stephen King's first novel. So, of course, I would imagine it's going to be rougher around the edges than, say, Salem's Lot and The Shining even. I felt like he got exponentially better as he went. Especially through that, like, kind of late 70s through late 80s period that he had. The peak King period, most people call it. So I'm excited to see how this measures up. If you've read it and watched it, let me know in the comments as well, because I'd love to know your thoughts on it. But that's the next book on deck. Now, this book is very exciting and special to me because we got it on our honeymoon trip in Alaska, because we were trying to find stuff that kind of felt cold and felt reminiscent of the place that we were going to, right? So we went to a local bookstore in Skagway, the first stop that we went to, and we picked up The Terror by Dan Simmons. I haven't read any Dan Simmons, but I've heard he is kind of a very, I guess you could say, prolific and eclectic author, in the sense that this is his horror novel, but he's also done a coming-of-age story. He has done a sci-fi novel that's known as one of the greatest sci-fi novels of all time. So, of course, I had to read The Terror. So I got this recommendation from Cliff, from Cliff's Dark Gems. I have linked him below as well. Definitely check out his channel. If you want your dose of horror, that's the guy, right? So here is the back flap here. The men on board the HMS Terror, part of the 1845 Franklin expedition, the first steam-powered vessels ever to search for the legendary Northwest Passage, are entering a second summer in the Arctic Circle without a thaw, stranded in a nightmarish landscape of encroaching ice and darkness. Endlessly cold, they struggle to survive with poisonous rations, a dwindling coal supply, and ships buckling in the grip of crushing ice. But their real enemy is even more terrifying. There's something out there in the frigid darkness, an unseen predator stalking their ship, a monstrous terror clawing to get in. So I love this because I kind of love the setting. It's kind of a historical horror novel, I guess you could say. That's kind of interesting to me. And then, there's also the idea of like the unknown, like these expeditions, they were not very safe, you know? It's not safe to go there now. You could imagine in the 1840s what it must have felt like. And so there was, all this kind of a fear running against them. And you add to that like a supernatural element. That's two fears for the price of one. So I'm excited to see if the terror lives up to its name. And so that's going to be the longest book I think I'm reading this month. Yeah, this is like almost 800 pages. So got my work cut out for me. But from what I've heard, it's a great ride all the way through. So really looking forward to checking this one out. Now, this next one is kind of special because I met an author named Brian Bowyer on this channel. He's one of the first people to reach out to me. Wonderful guy and a horror writer. And he had sent me his copy of Flesh Rehearsal. Love the play on words. You know me. Shelf-Esteem. Always love a good play on words. Jack of all trades, master of puns. Um, so Flesh Rehearsal. Let's see what this one is about. This is a self-published novel, so I'm leaving the link to this and all the other ones below, so you can check those out if you want to check them out. And support an indie author, always a good thing. So here is the kind of what this story is about. Following years of abuse, Gretchen runs away from home after her sister dies by suicide. While on the road, she accepts a ride from Jacob and Amelia Sloan, who are driving back to Los Angeles from Chicago. Gretchen knows their dead father was the lead singer in a famous band. After hearing Gretchen sing, they convince her to be the vocalist in their rock band and to live with them in Los Angeles, where Gretchen meets and falls in love with the girl of her dreams. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the city, a predator lurks. The lobotomizer, a serial killer terrorizing Los Angeles, plots an attack that threatens to ruin Gretchen's happiness. Can she and her friends find and stop the killer before the unthinkable happens? Fans of Clive Barker, Stephen King, and Poppy Z. Bright will love this chilling novel. You know I love Stephen King. I've seen some Clive Barker movies, and I got to read him. And I love that kind of weird, almost cosmic horror stuff, awesome stuff. And of course, I live in Los Angeles, so being able to see something that takes place in my kind of town would be really fun to read. So I'm really looking forward to checking this out. So I'm leaving the link below on this one as well. Now, this one is kind of more of a possibility. I've always wanted to read this book. I had read Nick Cutter's The Troop from a recommendation from Mike from Mike's Book Reviews, leaving it down below. My wife has read this on the cruise, and this one is called The Deep. The Deep. So let's see what this one's about. A strange plague called the Gets is decimating humanity on a... Oh, interesting. A strange plague called the Gets is decimating humanity on a global scale. It causes people to forget. Small things at first, like where they left their keys. Then the not-so-small things, like how to drive, or the letters of the alphabet. Their bodies forget how to function involuntarily. There is no cure, but far below the surface of the Pacific Ocean, a universal healer, hailed as ambrosia, has been discovered. In order to study this phenomenon, a special research lab has been built 8 miles under the sea's surface. When the station goes incommunicado, a brave few descend through the lightless fathoms in hopes of unraveling the mysteries lurking at their crushing depths, and perhaps to encounter an evil blacker than anyone could possibly imagine. The deep ocean is one of the most unexplored areas in all the world. Like, we've explored so much, but we haven't even explored like a tenth of all the world's oceans. That is terrifying to me. I would love to read this. So let's see if I can get to it. Maybe I should just quit my jobs and just read for the month. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments if you think that's a kind of a prudent, rational idea. It sounds good to me, honestly. So that's these ones. Now, this next one is one I'm definitely going to get to. So one of these might get nixed and put to November, depending on how things go. But John from Disquiet and Dragons and I have struck up a really good friendship through this channel, and we've been recommending books back and forth to each other. He recommended to me that I check out an author named David Sodergren, and he has a novel called The Har. I immediately read the premise, and I thought, this could be a fun one to adapt. So I'm going to read the premise to you now. Muriel Macaulay has lived in the Scottish fishing village of Witch Haven all her life. She was born there, and she intends to die there. But when an overseas property developer threatens to evict the residents from their homes and raze Witch Haven to the ground in the name of progress, all seems lost, until the day a mysterious fog bank creeps inland. Very, very interesting. And this author, I've been hearing about David's work from multiple booktubers. I think Cliff from Cliff's Dark Gems has also mentioned him, and I've just kind of been seeing him more and more. So it looks like an underrated, but an author that I need to check out. So I'm really looking forward to checking out some of his work, and that is the penultimate book on my list. And the last one is massive, so there's no way I'm going to get to all of it, but I'm going to have fun trying. This one I've wanted to read for a few months now, and it is kind of a Southern Gothic book with some horror elements in it. And it traces kind of the lineage of this particular family across multiple generations. And I love that kind of coming-of-age story. So this one is called Blackwater by Michael McDowell. So I'm going to read the premise here for you. Blackwater is the saga of a small town, Perdido, Alabama, and Eleanor Damert, the stranger who arrives there under mysterious circumstances on Easter Sunday, 1919. On the surface, Eleanor is gracious, charming, anxious to belong in Perdido, and eager to marry Oscar Caskey, the eldest son of Perdido's first family. But her beautiful exterior hides a shocking secret. Beneath the waters of the Perdido River, she turns into something terrifying, a creature whispered about in stories that have chilled the residents of Perdido for generations. Some of those who observe her rituals in the river will never be seen again. Now, this was originally published in 6 volumes, and this is kind of like an omnibus collection. So it's like 850 or 800 pages on hardcover. So it's a big book. I'm going to maybe try to get through the first volume. If I could get through more, that would be wonderful. But I have, let's see, already like 8 books on this list, so the chances are slim, but it's a wish list one for me, and if I'll definitely get to it this year, because this is something that I could imagine, wow, that would be fun to adapt. So I'm kind of doing my research, doing my due diligence, seeing what's optioned and what's not. I believe the Deep actually is also optioned right now, so be interested to check that out. But let me know in the comments what you're planning on reading. Are you planning on doing an insanely ambitious and probably very unrealistic TBR like I am? Or are you planning on playing it safer and probably, mentally healthier? Let me know in the comments, and, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you all being here. We have now 457 subscribers as of this taping, and it means the world to me. I've been on BookTube for just about 5 months now, and I had no expectations going into this. And I never knew that it would be just so much fun and that I would make so many friends along the way. So I just really deeply appreciate you all being here for the ride. For those of you who are seeing this for the first time, have not liked or subscribed yet, please feel free to, hit the like button and the subscribe button. Always helps the algorithm gods push it out to the right people. So deeply appreciate your support there, and it helps me continue to make content that hopefully you like. And let me know how I can keep getting better, because I always want to get better with each video. That's my goal, to be able to serve you in a way that would continue to add entertainment and value to your lives. So with that, I'm Nikhil with Shelf-Esteem. Please be good to yourselves. Please be good to each other. Have a wonderful spooky season, y'all, and I will see you in the comments and on the next video. Take care.